This comes from GoNintendo.com. They say Nintendo Switch company wants to increase sales with peripherals, not revisions. So the following quotes come from a recent article from Wall Street Journal. And there's some quotes here that I'll just go ahead and read the quotes. The people familiar said expanded Switch features in the coming year could also include additional network-related features and peripherals to be attached to its USB Type-C port. But they said changes to the Switch itself, like a smaller version of the machine, were unlikely this year as Nintendo focuses on better manufacturing and shipping of the current model. At an investor briefing in February, Mr. Kimishima, the Nintendo CEO, said he wanted to make the Switch's product cycle longer than the 5 to 6 year span that's become customary in the video game console industry. One person's familiar with development plans said waiting longer to introduce variations in the hardware would serve that purpose.
Yeah, so the interesting thing here is that they just say that it's not this year. But then they said waiting longer to introduce variations would serve that purpose. So it makes me think
I guess they didn't want to do what they did with the 3DS and say that there were no new 3DS types coming out.
Yes.
And then they had like a Brazilian of them.
There
just
was,
tons of them.
For those who don't know, there was an interview with Miyamoto, pretty much the main guy at Nintendo responsible for like Zelda, Mario, Donkey Kong, all of your favorites. He was in an interview when the 3DS revealed, and the interviewer was smart, had common sense, and was like, hey, you released the DS, but then you released the DSi, the DSi XL, the DS Lite, all of these different variations of the DS. What do you have to say for the people waiting to buy the 3DS XL or the 3DSi, whatever it would be called, that doesn't want to purchase a 3DS right now? And Miyamoto just said, we, Nintendo, have no plans to release any variations of the 3DS other than what is already available. So people worried about purchasing or like getting buyer's remorse because they buy a 3DS, then the new version comes out.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry because we're not going to be doing that. A few months later, they announced the 3DS XL. Literally a few months later. So it's like, you go back to that interview, and I understand wanting to, like, when you announce a new hardware or something, you want it to be a big surprise. You want it to, like, have hype built up. You don't want it to be announced as like a simple answer to a question during an interview like this, because there's like millions of dollars that goes into marketing and how to release it, how to announce it and everything. So in a way, like, you know, he's probably forced by Nintendo to just deny everything, but at the same time it's like, Miyamoto, you lied to me.
You're like, yeah, exactly. People take that personally, obviously. Yeah, it's because they're investing money, their hard-earned money. So
yeah. So like with this, they didn't straight up say no. There's not going to be any like new revisions of the Switch. They just said not this year.
Not this year. Yeah.
And it's interesting that they mentioned that the USB Type-C port, because that was what a lot of people were thinking, that to have like a second GPU inside the Switch dock so it can connect and then display and like run the games at a higher resolution, higher frame rate, or whatever. They mention, you know, attaching peripherals or whatever to the USB Type-C port. Right now, the only thing you can do with it is charge the Switch and connect it to a TV. So what other uses could they come up with? Because, like, Nintendo Labo is the only other peripheral that you can buy or soon to buy for the Switch, and that's just cardboard attachments.
Go. You popped on the screen for a second, and then you left us again.
Alright. We should be back on.
Alright. Lol.
Now that we're live, people don't know my April Fool's
we had
plans.
like 40 people watching, and then it dropped
Yeah, but it just means that people are going to get the notification that you're live again.
Okay.
So you might get new people.
Oof.
Gibbs says quit.
We got
So,
4 people.
I think my laptop may have overheated, so I have it to where the fan is on now. So
Oh no. It's too hot. Too hot. We're too much hotness.
Nintendo's ninjas came in.
Yeah, they took us out.
All right. Is the stream going good? Can you guys?
Yeah, we're
hear?
good.
Oof.
Yeah, they took us out.
Yeah. So I've been watching this show, The Ranch, on Netflix, and I think I'm developing an
is the-
accent from just watching it.
Oh, The Ranch with Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah, Danny Masterson, and who apparently had some accusations made about him.
Oh,
All right. Hello.
Yeah. Hello. Actually, did you know all my favorite celebrities turned out to be perverts this year? So
Well, not Kevin Smith. Kevin.
No, thank God, not Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Because we already knew he was a pervert.
Yeah, it's what all his movies. It's all dick and fart jokes.
Yeah. Oh, and his stand-up stuff where he talks about what him and his wife do.
I'm actually going to be trying to go to one of his live shows here in
since we
like a
know
month
that
or so.
he is, in fact, alive.
Yeah, after his heart attack.
Yeah.
He said that was the funniest thing on his Instagram. He's like, yeah, they kept on telling me I had a heart attack, and he thought he just like drank some bad milk or something. Because like apparently massive heart attacks that kill you or almost kill you don't really hurt all the time. It just feels like you have an upset stomach.
Well, I've had some upset stomachs in my day, so now I'm worried.
Yeah. So you guys ready? The
Yeah.
people have jumped back in. We're ready to go. So
Let's do
basically, for everybody watching, because there have to be some sort of cut made there during the live or the recorded version of the podcast on YouTube. So my laptop died for whatever reason. Hopefully now it won't. And we will continue talking about Nintendo's ninjas assaulting us for
Nintendo.
mentioning Miyamoto lied to his fans.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was
That was
lied,
it.
and we're upset and wasting money. How dare they? Don't you dare do this with the Switch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nuh-uh. It's too late. I already bought the Switch at launch. I
Yeah,
stayed
me
up
too.
till midnight, waiting in line for 6 hours.
Oh, 7 for me, yeah. It was a good time.
Yeah. So with these peripherals,
times,
whenever
it was the worst time.
when it cut out, what I was basically trying to get to is right now the only thing that the Switch can do is charge via the USB, or you can put it in the dock where it also charges but also displays to the TV. So they could come out with another dock that has a GPU in it. The only other peripheral they have coming out for the Switch is all of the Labo stuff, but you're not plugging cardboard into your USB. So
I hope not. Goodness.
yeah, so all of that
Don't do
stuff
that.
is like it's just like stuff that you can put your Joy-Cons and everything on. So similar to the Mario Kart wheels that you can get for like motion controlled karting. So what kind of USB stuff do you imagine them doing? Do you think it'll be an updated dock? Do you think it'll be something else that I can't think of? Or do you think they'll just release a new Switch like they have the new 3DS, which is just a little bit more powerful, but apparently that little bit of power is what you need to play games like Xenoblade on the 3DS. I don't know if any other 3DS games are only able to run on the new 3DS, but games like the new Pokemon games can only be played in 3D on the new 3DS. So there is like the power there, as small of an upgrade as it is, does make a little bit of a difference. So with the Switch, do you think it'll be like a new dock? Do you think they'll just release a new Switch? Do you think it'll be something even more unique?
I want a Nintendo Switch VR system where I can play Hyrule Warriors and a new updated version of Link's crossbow training.
Hell yeah, Link's crossbow training
In VR. Okay.
Were you on
Please.
the episode, Holly, where
Thank you.
I mentioned the small fact that Link's crossbow training outsold Wind Waker?
No.
Yeah,
no,
That's
I wasn't.
upsetting.
doing
No,
it.
that was when we
Yeah.
had
I bought it.
Pelvic.
I liked it. I still have it.
Yeah, so Wind
I
Waker,
did too.
Wind Waker, one of the best
I-
Zelda games, on the
I
top
didn't
of
buy Wind
everyone's.
Holy.
You're part of the problem.
I helped that. I didn't buy Wind Waker when it
I
first came out. I
offset
was
it.
angry about that game, so I didn't buy it until the remastered version came out.
I bought Wind
contributed.
Waker twice though, so
Whoa.
I think I make up for it. 3 times. I've bought Wind Waker 3 times.
On the
because-
GameCube?
No, twice. Well, I
Oh.
guess the first time I got it when it was like pretty new. Then I lent it to my girlfriend at the time, and we broke up. And I just no, I didn't get it back.
So people in the chat, you can fact check me and tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe Wind Waker sold around 3 or 4 million copies on the GameCube.
That sounds right. Yeah.
But then Link's crossbow training sold like 5 or 6 million.
Yo.
So it wasn't just like, oh, it barely beat it out. It was like, no, it almost
It
like
really.
doubled. It was like, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I just think because there was so much speculation about like a real life looking Zelda, like, you know, just really epic animation. It's gonna be so
Yeah.
dope. It's gonna be so realistic and dark and edgy. And then they put out Wind Waker. A lot of people were very, including myself, were very kind of disheartened by that. And like, what is this? What is this childhood thing? What?
It's wonderful.
It is, and
That's what it
I
is.
agree with you now. But at the time, I was one of those people that was like,
Yeah.
"What is this? What is this garbage?"
Yeah, it was
So-
like that. Like up until as soon as I started playing it, then I was on board. But
Right,
right up
yeah.
until that point, I was not. But
Yeah.
I was like too loyal to not buy it anyways.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
so
Lost it, had to buy it again.
Yeah.
Holly is also the reason we got Twilight Princess, because it was the feedback from all of the American audiences that caused them, because after Wind Waker they started working on Wind Waker 2, but then they changed that to Twilight Princess because
Yep.
the American audience and Nintendo of America was basically like, hey, nobody likes this. You need to change this. They want what you
We like
showed.
it now.
Yeah, they want what you showed at the GameCube tech demo. So
Exactly.
they changed it to the more realistic style. They literally went the exact opposite way because Nintendo of America was like, nobody's going to buy this game.
Yeah.
So
We
because
want
of you,
creepy looking babies
Yeah.
and weird girls that collect bugs is what we want.
yeah,
Don't forget the clowns.
Yeah.
because of you, we got Twilight Princess, and Wind Waker was changed to Phantom Hourglass. So we ended
Yeah.
up getting the Wind Waker sequel, but it was for the DS. So
Yeah.
shame on you, Holly. We could have had,
Sorry.
because of your people, we don't have adult Toon Link.
Sorry.
So think about that.
Do we want adult Toon? I guess adult Toon Link would pretty much be Breath of the Wild.
Well,
Link.
they not only would it have been
So-
adult Toon Link, but they also said it would have instead of taking place on the open ocean, it would have taken place on a huge landmass. The director, whatever, said it would have been similar to Ocarina of Time, but it would have still carried over elements from the Wind Waker. So one of the
Still
things he
sounds like
mentioned,
Twilight Princess.
Right?
one of the things that he mentioned was that Epona would be a big part of the game, like in Twilight Princess. So you would have had Toon Epona for the first time as well. So
Okay.
yeah, some interesting stuff there. But anyways, back to the Switch talk.
Right, that thing we were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some stuff that you would like to see with the Switch dock?
I
Yeah,
know that
so
too.
that's me.
Yeah.
Obviously, realistically, I expect just something that will give it more like power, basically. You know, like that's the short end of it. Just more power. Much in the same vein as like new 3DS XL and etc. But what I wanted when they were announcing the Switch is for a form of backwards compatibility that could connect the Switch like via Bluetooth or something to the dock, and the dock have an extra disc drive, so I could play my Wii U games on there.
Oh, okay.
And I just thought that would be really cool, but it's not going to happen because they're done with like the dual screen experience.
Yeah.
Except they're still stuck with the 3DS, but I don't mean that in a hateful way. I love my 3DS. But yeah, I just think they're probably just going to have something with more GPU, more CPU, more RAM and power, and all those terminologies.
Yeah.
All the computers.
Right. Well, I guess like that's the logical thing, but it is Nintendo. Like they're releasing $50 cardboard here in a month or two.
Yeah.
So.
And they have this weird way of doing it where I want to buy it too. So
the cardboard.
Like I want to buy the $50 cardboard. Yeah. So what other company could do that? They're like, yeah, we're gonna sell some cardboard for. If you want to build a giant robot out of cardboard, be $80, please. And I'm like, hell yeah!
There you go, good sir.
No other company could get away with that.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. Like Nintendo, yeah, they've made some poor decisions, but they've also made some decisions that have changed so much within the gaming realm. So you never know, right? And I mean, yeah. Still, kids are like the way to go. You want to hook kids. That's why do you think we still play Nintendo? Because we all had like N64s and like Sega Genesis and stuff. And you just grow with those systems. So I don't believe that you should give a kid a PS4 and let them play like Call of Duty and GTA 5, right? I bought Rainin a Nintendo Switch for his 5th birthday, so he's gonna grow up on that like Nintendo train. So they're smart once you think about it. They're hooking them
and Kirby.
Yeah. Exactly, they're hooking the kids up now with cardboard and like cool imaginary stuff that you still need a Nintendo for, and then that's gonna carry on until they're our age in their like 30s and 40s, and they're gonna continually buy Nintendo. They're gonna be hooked for life. That's why Nintendo's still here. So
yeah.
They're smart.
It's weird to think like my son, for example, he's also 5, that he's gonna think of the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch the way I look back and think about the Super Nintendo and the N64.
Right.
And that just blows my mind because it was like these are not like this is such a crazy gap.
Yeah.
But that's where his nostalgia is gonna be at. Yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing for me is he mentioned like having a 6 to 7 year lifespan for the Switch. I don't think he means that it's going to be 6 or 7 years before we see an upgrade or a new console. I think it's going to be similar to the 3DS, where the new 3DS, the 3DS XL, everything falls under the 3DS family. I think this will fall under the Switch family. Like if there is a new Switch, a Switch 2.0, Switch Mini, Switch XL, Switch
the new
3D,
Nintendo Switch XL.
Whatever it's going to be, I think it's going to be that, to where it is like maybe not next year, but the year after. Like especially when like the PS5 is being announced, Nintendo's going to want to do something to release something to allow you to play games on par with the newer consoles. So
yeah.
And then they said that they were working on like their handheld, because they were pushing the Switch as the home console or whatever, but it could also be taken on the go or on the go. They, in an interview, they mentioned that the handheld, like the true handheld consoles, weren't dead from Nintendo, so they were still working on like whether it was newer versions of the 3DS or whatever the 3DS successor would be. They mentioned they were still like coming up with new ideas and concepts for stuff like that. So I don't know how that's going to go. That's like a different conversation for another time, but I think it's interesting that everyone looks at the Switch because it is also a handheld. So if they continue like a successor for the 3DS to where now there's the new powerful handheld, then like what does that look like for Nintendo? But anyways, do you guys have any final thoughts on this before we move on to the final piece of news?
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I just want to buy things from Nintendo.
All right. Well, our final piece of news comes from Go Nintendo, where they say Nintendo open to the idea of more DLC for Super Mario Odyssey.